So we have a very, very packed day. We have a full lineup. So please join me in welcoming Patrick Pichette, the Chief Financial Officer of Google. Patrick, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. You are featured briefly in the current issue of Fortune around our Dream Team series. We have a little piece that CFOs are not just green eye shade types, they're strategic. I learned that you have since you've joined Google, you had a broader responsibility than only the Chief Financial Officer, and you've since added responsibilities. Could you just tell us about that?
That's correct. Even from day one, I remembered at dinner with Eric, we had this long dinner about the roles and responsibilities. Eric basically said at one point, wow, you're going to be really bored with just the CFO job. So we're going to create something very googly for you. So at Google, I have the CFO job. I also run all the capital, all the real estate, all the employee services. Think of buses, massage therapists, chefs, food. I also have the economics team. I have the internal consulting team, which is the BizOps team, and I have people operations, so all the HR.
And specifically with HR, what was who had that before? And that's one of your newer responsibilities, is that right?
Through the realignment that Larry did a couple months ago, he just wanted to put focus specifically on product. Like the mindset was, we have to get more velocity, the startup velocity in the company. And so he kind of looked at a couple places and said, okay, why don't we just reshuffle to make sure that we keep on all the focus we need on these areas. But at my team on Monday morning or Monday afternoon, just simplify a bit. And so, I mean, everybody knows people operations and the HR component of Google is one critical strategic asset that we have. So it's not that we're losing any focus over it. And our head of HR, Laszlo Bach, continues to kind of be formidable around the company. It was just simply to streamline just the day-to-day processes rather than.
Okay, if I'm understanding what you're saying, it's that it's not directly a product matter, and so bring this under your purview so that somebody else can focus more on product.
Correct.
Okay. You reminded me that shortly after you joined Google, I wrote an article about you, and the headline was something like "The Axeman cometh to Google." There was certainly a reputation, justifiably, that Google was big on spending and not so big on being cost conscious before your arrival. Google quickly killed a handful of products and programs after you joined. So. Let's just start high level and talk about expense management from your perspective and Google's perspective.
I think people have a misconception about Google in general on that topic. I think Google is a very responsible company. It's a generous company, but it's very frugal in many ways. It's very smart in the way it invests. And the perfect example of that is the bus service that we have in San Francisco. People always say, Google spends money like there's no tomorrow, they have free buses, and therefore, it's true everywhere. Well, take a step back and think of buses for a moment. We have a huge campus in Mountain View, and if we did not have these bus services, what we would have is gridlock every morning and every afternoon, with loss of productivity for our employees. And by the way, we'd have issues about parking, amount of parking available, right, which would cost a ton of capital to actually make sure the infrastructure is there, and a number of other kind of side costs that are related to it. You put buses in the formula, I reduce my capital spend, everybody's there on time, nobody has to worry about, plus the green cost, and then they get Wi-Fi an hour in, an hour out. What a fantastic productivity tool. And that's the magic of Google. It takes the prejudices that we have and looks very much into kind of how do we actually spend wisely in a creative way that actually delivers immense value. And when you have it with those lenses, comb through all the expenses that look frivolous at Google, and then you'll find there's something magical about the way they thought about it. Having said that, I look at my cost for buses every year, every half year. My unit cost has to go down because it's still a cost. So that's my job as a CFO. But don't underestimate the really strategic value and the creativity in our total cost in that example.
What percentage of Mountain View employees ride the bus?
We have, without giving it, thousands a day.
Okay, you have 29,000 employees worldwide, so 50, 60% of those are in Mountain View?
We don't divulge that, unfortunately.
Reasonable guess? I mean, I'm just trying. So it's thousands is
It's
not
thousands.
an insignificant
No,
number.
I mean, we have our bus company. I have 300 routes a day. We even
300
design
routes, you said?
Yes, 300 routes a day. I mean, going through the East Bay everywhere, and this is a really important benefit to Googlers.
And I think that the bus system is sort of a well understood tool now. It's not the least bit controversial. Other companies have copied Google in Silicon Valley, as other companies have copied many of Google's expenses, including the free food. Someone at this conference told me he has on authority that you're cutting back the food expense by 10%. Can you confirm that?
No. I mean, I asked it, again, it's the same thing. I mean, we look for food programs that are very healthy for our employees. That's part of, again, the fundamental reason is we want our employees to be healthy. And so we actually that's why we have chefs in our cafes. We have, a real focus on nutrition. And part, again, of my job is to make sure that we have more for less. That's just the job of the CFO. So in our food program, in our transport program, in our capital programs for real estate, in everything we do, my job is to ask more for less. And so every year, we look at our unit costs, and then we build a plan for the year, and then we track it through the year. So we're at mid-year right now, and you shouldn't be surprised to hear at Google, hey, it's mid-year, and therefore we're resetting the clocks in a number of areas. But if you go to the cafes right now, they have tremendous amounts of diversity in the food program, and it's actually really, really good food.
So I'm sorry, just to be clear, you're not cutting back food expenses by 10%?
We are not.
You're not, okay, good. Let's try to move on to some more substantive issues regarding Google, because there are many. I want to read a quote to you from a prominent Silicon Valley CEO. He said, our goal is to make beautiful products that are simple and intuitive to use. Can anybody guess who that CEO is? It's not Steve Jobs, it's Larry Page in Google's last week's earnings call. The implication is that that Google has not sufficiently made beautiful and intuitive products before now. There was something that Larry's trying to change. So can you start at a high level? Talk about the new life at Google under Larry's management. What has changed? What is he trying to accomplish?
As I said a minute ago, I think that the two things that matter a lot to us is we don't want to lose our startup velocity. And with scale, there always becomes this tension of how do you keep the startup velocity? And then the second piece is focusing on products. I mean, Google is an engineering and product company. And in that balance of engineering and product, right, it's always a tension between when you have massive engineering efforts, it's easy to kind of lose sight of the ease of use. And when you focus a lot on ease of use, right, it's easy to actually lose the focus on the insight. And there lies that balance. So Larry is actually just, in the last 90 days, he basically said, hey, it's just time to reshift. Don't lose any sight onto the insights of the deep engineering innovation that we drive. Time to freshen up a number of sites. And let's make sure that we don't lose focus on that ease of use that makes it magical. I mean, he talks about the toothbrush example, right? He wants the product to be so beautiful and so intuitive that just naturally, just like a toothbrush, you want to use it twice a day, 3 times a day. It's just a thing that you want to live with. And so that's the kind of focus. But in addition to that, Larry really was very clear that it is important, and we saw it with the triumvirate, right? With a worldwide company, it was slowing us down to have Eric in Europe for 2 weeks, and then you have to make a decision, and to just kind of simplify the organization to make sure that we have velocity, just like a startup would. And you see it in the Google Plus, for example, right? The number of changes that we have done to Google Plus since its launch, sometimes a number of times a day, right? That's what a startup does. That's what we want as the kind of cultural fiber of the company.
What's an example of a change you've made to Google Plus? It was only launched several weeks ago, right?
It was launched about 2 weeks ago, and without knowing the details, we got feedback. The way that the team set up the product is they actually set up a set of blogs to get feedback instantly. And as people said, hey, I can't do this or I can do that, and I wouldn't know all the details of it, we actually had the team change code, right, a couple of times a day or once a day, and they do a push on a regular basis. So what you see today, because Google Plus is a project really, right, what you see today is already quite different than what you would have seen, say, 2 weeks ago. So for example, if you had before you click on a button that people would have found confusing, they would have said, hey, I found this confusing. You'll have a pop-up now that says, hey, just to be clear, this is what this will do, as an example, because I've had one yesterday.
We'll come back to Google Plus in a moment. The interesting thing about the toothbrush is that there aren't many products that we use every day. For quite a few years of Google's history, Google Search is a product that many of us used, I would say most of us used every day, all day long. Is Larry articulating a vision of, is there an optimal number of products that Google can do well? Because right now Google has many products, too many for us to name in the time that we have remaining, right?
I think that if you think of Google as a platform and core product company, it's actually not that many. Like, take a step back for a moment, right? You have search, right? And then from search, you move to the big platforms of Android, Chrome, the apps platform, the YouTube platform. And then from there, you actually move to newer areas, which include local, commerce. And from there, you'll see a lot of additions to these products, right, that actually complement them. But those are the core platform in which we're investing today. And we're actually incredibly fortunate. I was telling a team of Googlers yesterday, most companies struggle to find their next platform of growth, right? Chrome's got 160 million users, right? From a project that when I joined the company wasn't out yet.
That's worldwide?
Worldwide.
And do you have a sense off the top of your head of what kind of market share that represents?
I don't think we divulged that, but yes, I do actually know exactly the number.
Well, Firefox is in the 20% range, right? And I don't pay careful attention.
Suffice to say, it's growing really fast because it's innovating really fast.
Can you just shout out what that represents in search, please, in market share? 160 million users. Somebody wants to have that at their fingertips. No? Okay, tweet it. We'll get back to it.
It's growing.
Okay.
It's growing because it's actually useful. People see the speed. People see the innovation, the relentless innovation, and that's what Google is about. And you go to Android, and it's the same thing, right? We've passed the 550. Tomorrow morning, when everybody gets up, another 550,000 devices will be activated on Android. Like, even by Google standards, these are like just runaway successes.
So let's play what does this mean to revenue game, and we'll do it on a variety of things. We'll start with Chrome. Explain the business model behind Chrome.
You have to take a step back on this one and explain the following. Larry, if anybody has the time to kind of go back and listen to the script of the earnings call, the most important point Larry made was the following. When we have products that get resounding user and consumer success, right, and that are growing in the hundreds of millions, right, we don't worry. The only question is when and how will we monetize. When you have a franchise of hundreds of millions, like, people thought that Google was crazy when they started search. There was a lot of competition at that time, right? It was Lycos and like, people forgot these names, right? They were there. They were giants compared to Google. And all Google focused on is, give me innovation that users want to use, like that toothbrush. And as long as I'm growing, right, nobody should worry. We will actually find. Now, having said all that, go back to your fundamental premise. You know that people that actually have a faster browser search more. We know that. And they search more by leaps. And if your browser is not only faster, but as you type in the top box, the Omni box, and you get instant search results out of it, right, you actually, again, perform more searches. So speed, ease of use, innovation in formats to deliver. What we know and recognized was, hey, there was 10 years of zero innovation until Firefox and Chrome came around. And with Chrome, we put the innovation on steroids. And for us, right, more searches, just on that basis, right, it's a great financial return. But that's that's just the beginning, because with that, because you're Google, you say the fundamental premise of these platforms is not only to actually have our products work very well, but to enable an entire ecosystem. Always build an ecosystem where there's a ton of win-wins. And on Chrome, just like on Android, marketplaces, developers, developer community, because we don't believe that one company has the monopoly on innovation. You have to let these ecosystems bloom so that there's tons of innovation as a byproduct, and that's what we focus on.
So I would boil down and paraphrase what you said, that if what's good for the web is good for Google, and if a better browser is better, it makes for better web search, better web experience, that's better for web search, that's better for Google, that's better for AdWords, which remains your profit engine, your growth engine.
And that's only the beginning. That's true.
But is there a different revenue opportunity? It strikes me that this is really about search, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I would take Chrome again, right? Chrome enabled the follow, which is Chrome OS, right? Chrome OS, we announced a device that was launched, and I actually carry everywhere I go, and I have the choice. By the way, I have the choice of, at Google, you have the choice of any computer you want, right? Since I had the first beta of the Chromebook, and for me, right, you see the future in that. Just like the first G1 phone that Andy and the Android team put out, you see the future in it.
But now
and so, just to come back to it, to your specific question, Chromebooks, right, and the enterprise announcement of the service is nothing could be further than an ad system that is AdWords, and these are huge markets.
Yep.
Again,
I understand. It is a revenue opportunity, in other words, in the enterprise.
Absolutely.
And is the answer in Android as straightforward? Is this really about search? Let's not be confused about, how do we monetize this? If we get people searching on their mobile phones, we own search, we make money. Period. Full stop.
And again, right, the answer is that pays it already, and now you have all the optionality of local, right, commerce. Think of how you live. We all know that mobile is going to change the world. We already live it, right? 5 years ago compared to today, how you use your maps, how you use to Near Me Now, how you think of how you would, today, if you don't have your cell phone with you, you're in panic mode. You know that. And Android is in fact a platform that, it happens that in fact it fuels search, but it fuels so many other avenues of growth for us and the ecosystem beside it.
Okay, and so first, two parts, the ecosystem. Second, you haven't shown any mobile revenue opportunities other than search. Are there other revenue opportunities? For example, would you license the OS? You're not now.
No, it's an open source license. I think we think that at this time in history, at the moment we're in, it is really critical that the license stays open source. It's what fuels the innovation. And so for us, that's a critical element. Again, take a step back, right? Everybody's all nervous about the fact that, hey, it's been 36 months since Android has launched, and you only have search, right? That's the criticism that I hear, right? And you sound like a South Side guy now, right? It's like, how come I don't have another, right? Where's my model not? It's like, just relax, right?
I speak to them from time to time.
550,000 devices every day with an ecosystem that has, right? We've announced wallet, we've announced payments, we've announced offers. You have Google Maps, you have all the functionality of Near Me Now, you have all the voice search. Now, take a step back and think of the opportunity that provides for Google and the entire ecosystem. That's why I think that the questions that are asked, so much short-termish, are just not the way that Google thinks. And that's not the way Larry thinks, and that's not the way Eric thinks. And it's so refreshing to be in a company where you don't have that kind of obsessive mindset of the next 30 days. Because then you can really dream about how do you want to change the world.
The ecosystem, you mentioned the daily activations. You said last week there are now 250,000 apps in Google's App Store. There's been 6 billion downloads. There's a lot of third-party research that the Apple's App Store has generated about $1.5 billion of revenue for its developers. What's the corresponding figure for Google's App Store ecosystem?
I don't have that on my fingertips. I'm sure somebody can give you the details, but it's substantial. And we, in the mix of things, right, everybody knows that we give the vast majority of the value to the developers because they're the ones creating the value. If you kind of take the time to develop an app that you put on the Chrome or the Android store, right, it's your value you've created. It belongs to you.
Does the
right?
vast majority mean the same 70% that Apple gives its developers?
In rough, I think we've been public about that, so it's roughly the same number. Yes.
And I'm sorry, you were saying, so sorry, I lost my train of thought.
That's okay.
It happens.
Look, Android, Chrome, YouTube, right? All of these projects, when I joined the company, people all said, why are you doing this, right? They even said, I remember reading articles about YouTube was the worst acquisition in the history of the universe or something like that, just like Patrick was the axeman of the cometh, right? And YouTube is a resounding success for the same reason. Users, like 3 billion views a day. 3 billion views, growing. 48 hours of video every minute being uploaded, right?
There was ample evidence that the company was concerned that YouTube was not being monetized quickly enough. There was a lot of talent went into YouTube on the sales side. We have to rev this up. I'm just saying, Google was not unconcerned about making that acquisition work either.
No, I think that at the time, when I joined specifically, the question was, and it's true of all these runaway successes. You actually have this thing. Android was the same, by the way. And the question is, as you got a runaway success, right? You got to let it go, and then you got to decide, okay, when do you actually put controls in to make sure that you don't lose control over it? And there's the tension of, if you kind of try to stifle it immediately, then you lose a huge option of creativity. That's the next wave of innovation. And you see that today in YouTube with the lean back programs and everything else. The teams are continuing to innovate instead of saying, in its simplest form, it'd be really easy to make YouTube very profitable now. As a long-term shareholder and somebody who's trying to create a platform for the next decade, what a mistake that would be.
Patrick, before we go to questions, I remembered where I was. You threw me by accusing me of sounding like a sell-side analyst, like a Wall Street analyst. Is it fair to assume that that Larry Page staying on the entire conference call last week was a response to investor anger that he didn't stay on the previous call, that it was arrogant of him to leave that previous earnings call before it was finished?
No, I think Larry was delighted to join the call. We had so much to we had just to update everybody, right? We had to update everybody on the project of Google+, which is kind of an important moment for us. We had to update everybody on how the reorganization of the company functioned. We had to update everybody on a lot of great progress in so many of our platforms. And then remind everybody, which was a great message too, I think everybody should take, right? If you go back to the founder's letter, and I just encourage anybody, I tell every noogler that joins in, I say, go and read that founder's letter. And when you read it, and you read this, the focus for the long term, the focus for transformative answers, the focus for making the world a better place through technology, it's the same cats. They haven't left.
Yeah.
And what you see in today's, it's actually the world that has changed in kind of saying, okay, now that you're 10 years old, you're an old company, I should think of you differently. And the key message that Larry wanted to tell everybody is, it's a very young company. We are in startup mode. We're going to invest for the long term because we see these amazing opportunities where technology is transforming the world. You have evidence in the last 36 months of such platforms, and we're investing now in other areas like commerce and local, which need to be completely I spend my weekends, I jokingly say, I spend my weekends with my Android phone, an elastic band that has tied to my Android phone, my driver's license, and my credit card. That's how I live. I'm not carrying a wallet anymore. Like a wallet is a medieval item, right? It's made of hide, so people go and hunt cows to kind of tan them. And then you go into mines to kind of draw ore, to put coins.
All right, you've made that point. I want to, but before
That's
I go,
the world of Google.
My question was, was the fact that Larry stayed on the full call last week a reaction to the criticism he got the previous quarter for not staying on the call?
I think that you're referring to is what I would call noise. I think that we had a great opportunity to reset the clocks and update everybody, and Larry just wanted to take the time to kind of update everyone as to where we were.
All right, for the first question, I want to go to a real-life sell-side analyst over here, Mark Mahaney of Citi.
Thanks for your time.
Hey, Mark.
I wanted to ask about Google's competitive position in terms of bringing in new employees. This is a record hire year for you.
Yes.
You've been increasing compensation. There are obviously a lot of other places, new platforms, especially with capital markets reemerging. There are a lot of other places for potential employees to go to. I know you measure it very carefully. How do you feel your ability to attract the best minds out there is today versus what it was a year or two ago? Is it where you need it to be? Are you able to get the best people?
The short answer on that is absolutely. I mean, we took a strategic decision at the end of last year, which was to raise everybody's salary by 10%. And part of the strategic decision we made there was we wanted to send a signal to the market that we will actually, Google will continue to be the place of choice. And we wanted to signal that very clearly to our employees. And what happened there was the following, Mark. Think of 3 dials. People leaving Google, people applying to Google, and then people that accept offers that we make them. And in that context, here's what happened. All 3 dials went the right way, right? Everybody's staying happily because they're working on great projects.
Well, not everybody's staying, but you mean an acceptable number.
Our attrition rate is the lowest it's been in years.
Oh.
Years.
What is that rate?
And we don't disclose that either. Thank you for asking.
Sure.
But I don't have the stat for Q2, but I'll give you the stat for Q1 because I still remember at the end of Q1 asking it. In the first 90 days of 2011, just under 600,000 people applied for a job at Google. And of that number, right, we have the luxury of cherry picking the very best. And so we now ended up in the first half of this year with, lowest attrition ever. Everybody we make an offer to is delighted to accept it. And basically a wall of applications coming our way of the very best talent in the world. So in that context, right, hiring a little more than we would have had otherwise, and now we have the luxury of controlling that gas pedal. What a great problem to have.
He's confident, yes. I just want to tell the clock gods, we're going to take 5 extra minutes. I apologize. We have so many hands that I want to go to a bunch of them. Jason first, and then we'll go over there. Yep. Just identify yourself, please, even though
Hey, Jason Hirschhorn. I'm a big fan of Google, but I'm also, as a fan, a critic. And one of the weaknesses I've seen is in graphical user interfaces and how you integrate all your products together. And my understanding of the hiring process at Google is that when you go there and you're in product, you get interviewed by a series of engineers. And I think one of the weaknesses that Google has is in graphical user interfaces and design and user experience. How is your interview process changing to actually improve on that?
Actually, one of the things that we did in the tune-ups of the organizations this spring was we actually merged the product and engineering teams together, which was, what we found was we were losing. When Google was just a one-product company, it was very easy to have product and engineering work together at a table. But now when you're trying to organize a conversation between the Maps team, the local team, and the search team, right? Now you have times 3, 6, plus if you needed in the old days, Larry, Sergey, and Eric, now you're at 9, right? Started slowing down things. By actually merging the product and engineering teams, they're together now in the decision-making process every day. And in addition to that, in all of those processes, right, they do it jointly. So I think that we have a much better symbiotic relationship in attracting people that actually have the focus on UI. And Larry has made it very clear in his comments that you'll notice on the call, right, where he actually is putting more emphasis on the UI and the integration of these different products to make sure that they work seamlessly for us. We recognize that there are some areas where there's just too much clutter.
George.
Is it evil to pay only 6% federal tax?
We pay all our taxes in every jurisdiction to the full extent that the law allows us. And that's what we do. We pay every penny of tax we owe to everybody, everywhere. And the issue is, I don't make the laws. I just basically, I'm just like every other corporation. I just make sure that, I abide by all the laws and we're good corporate citizens. I mean, I think that's the situation we're in.
You will be hearing no apology about Google's tax payments. Back in the back, please. Just please identify yourself.
Hey guys, Andrew Siegel. Listen, your operating margins and your capital efficiency metrics are so outrageously great that you can take all sorts of deal costs against them and they wouldn't budge. You got roughly $40 billion in cash, growing 25% per year. Why aren't you guys being even more active buying innovation?
That's a great question. And it's the same question for how many people we bring in fact. The trick is for acquisitions of people, and now if you make the case for acquisitions, there's two components. There's our ability to absorb, which is there's no sense buying a company and just having them spin in never land. And so for us, we have our priorities. You've heard us talk about our priorities through this conversation. The real tests are the following. Is there a company out there that actually has a natural fit with our priorities? If it has a fit with our priorities, then on top of that, we actually go and scrub the team, and we go and scrub the IP really hard. Because if they're the team that won't fit with us, there's no sense buying them, right? It'll just fall apart. And if the IP is a good test of the engineering capacity, right? Then, if it passes the test of it fits with our agenda, great team, decent IP, and then there's always price, right? There's a price after which you can't say yes. And we basically scan the entire planet looking for these great opportunities. Every single one that passes the bar, right? We're delighted to bring them on board because they just fuel the agenda. And that's how we think about it. It's a very simple model, but we can't drop the bar of the quality of the people we bring in and the fit with, because otherwise we'll end up with just a dog's breakfast out there. That's not Google.
Last question back there. Short question, short answer, please.
Hi, Patrick. Miguel Health with Fortune. So there's no arguing with the success of Android, and it's obvious that if I switch from a feature phone or even a BlackBerry to a smartphone, I'm going to search more. But there's also a hypothesis that in an app world, there'll be less search in the mobile world. And so I wanted to ask how you think about that. Is this a concern for Google, and is that...
That's I hear that often, and it's actually a wrong premise. If you have a smartphone, whatever the smartphone, you search a ton. That's what you do. And by the way, this concept of, I love to hear these kind of clashes of titles. It's only apps or only HTML5, right? It can only be one. And the fact is, they're both. And this is a digital economy where you're going to be applications where you want richness and you need a lot of power because it's about voice recognition. It can't be an app. It's going to be cloud-based. And then there's some really simple things that are really cool because you're just kind of shooting birds across to kind of kill pigs. Then that's fine if it's an app, right? There's space for both. And what we know is for us, our applications are going to run on both. But the cloud is the future for us. That's where we build the core applications because with the cloud, you got horsepower. And with horsepower, you do crazy good innovations. And that's what the Googlers focus on.
And I would add to that from your comments that Google has the luxury of not caring which is the right answer.
We care deeply.
Not which is the right answer, though. You're making investments so that you win this way and you win that way, correct?
The digital economy is going to win, and both are going to win.
Before you go, Patrick, I want to show the results to our poll about that very important question about Reggie Watts' hair. If it could just come up there. The answer is, it's impossible to tell because no one yet close enough. Please join me in thanking Patrick Pichette of Google.
Thank you, everybody.